Hey gang, it's Megan Barnhart, story magician and writing coach over at Write with Megan. Today I'm going to be chatting about how to prepare for NaNoWriMo, and you can also apply this to any big writing project that you are working on. So let's dig in. If you're watching live, say hello. Let me know what you're working on. Are you doing Nano? If so, what you going to write? And if you're not participating in National Novel Writing Month, let us know what you are working on. What's your big writing project? What are you gearing up to conquer? Love to hear. Okay, I'm going to get us shared in the Write with Megan Facebook group. Boom. And all right, now you have my full attention. Hey, Rosie. So here's how this video is going to go down. First, I'm going to walk you through 6 steps that you can use to plan your NaNoWriMo successfully or any other big writing project. Then in the second half of the video, I'm going to share with you my personal plan. I am doing NaNoWriMo for my very first time this year. I am equal parts excited and petrified. So I'm going to just share with you what I'm doing, and hopefully that will inspire you. But first, let's talk through 6 steps for successfully tackling any big writing project, whether you're trying to write a novel in a month or write all of your blog posts for your business so that you don't have to be doing that on a weekly basis, or working on a nonfiction book, whatever you got going on. Okay, the very first thing is to get clear on your personal goal. Now, this applies even if you're doing NaNoWriMo, where there's this built-in goal of writing 50,000 words for the month of November. Because depending on where you are, like in your writing journey, in your author journey, you're going to have a different goal. This is my very first time going through Nano. My goal is just to get my 50,000 words in. I may not finish my story, and I will be happy if I just finish. Maybe you've done this before and your goal is not only to get 50,000 words down, but like to really craft an outline and make sure you like write a story that you can do something with. Maybe the story, maybe you're choosing among different stories. And in that case, check in with your personal goal. Are you continuing a series, or are you going to write something that's just for play? I'm writing something that's just for play because I normally write nonfiction, but there's a novel that I've been thinking about for over a year, and this seems like the perfect time. So my personal goal is not about like having a novel that's ready to publish. I have no idea if I'm going to do anything with it. I really just want to write this story. Okay, so get clear on your personal goal and be really honest about that. If this is just for play, let it be fun and playful. If you've got a serious goal to help this further your author career, be thoughtful about that. How can you really set yourself up for success? This is going to determine the amount of time you'll dedicate to it, right? Because I'm writing for fun, I'm like letting it kind of be secondary to other writing and other things I'll do for work. So establish your personal goal. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, Rosie says, I'm prepping for Nano while trying, LOL. Not sure what to expect since it's my first time and I'm not very organized normally. Rosie, high five. I feel exactly the same way, which is honestly why I wanted to do this video, because I haven't done a lot of prep yet. I mentioned I'm going to share with you my plan, but it's the plan I'm planning to follow. It's not the plan I have followed already. So no worries. Yeah, let's figure it out together. So your first step was just get really clear on what your goal is. Know what you want out of this project and what it will look like for it to be successful. The second thing you need to do is get clear on the time it's going to take. If you're doing NaNoWriMo, your time is going to be about trying to get 50,000 words down over the course of a month. If you're working on a different big writing project, you gotta figure out your own goal in terms of time. What's your deadline? When do you want to be done with it? But even if you have that built-in time of it's the month of November, you got to be done by the end of November, and you're supposed to have 50,000 words, you still need to know what that looks like for you. So I use 750words.com, which is a website where you can write daily free writes or, anything you want. And it is a great place for me to track my stats. So if you use any kind of writing software where you have stats saved, I recommend you go and look at those, because that will tell you how long it takes to get to a certain word count, or what your word count is per minute. And you'll start to see, like, okay, I could do 1,000 words in this much time, which means I could do 5,000 words in this much time. Start looking at those numbers so that you have a realistic sense of how much time it will take you to achieve that goal. And that will help you make a plan for success, right? Like, it sounds really great. I'm gonna write 5,000 words a day. But if you look at your personal statistics and see that, it takes you 5 hours to write 5,000 words, that might be way more time than you can afford to give this project, whether it's Nano or something else. So really look at your stats. How do you do your writing? And what kind of time will you need to achieve your goal? Step 3, map this project onto your calendar, right? So step 2 is like, start to think about how much time it will take. Step 3 is, when will that time be? It's going to take me this many hours total. So how can I map that onto my calendar? And be very respectful of the things that are already on your calendar, or that are probably coming up. For those of us in the US, Thanksgiving falls the 3rd week of November, and this is a time that might be filled up with a lot of family and friends type things. It might not be. Maybe you're like, screw turkey. I'm just taking this time to write. And that's awesome. I love that. I'm all for you using your time in the way it works for you. But if you do have plans to celebrate Thanksgiving, if you're going out of town, if you're having guests coming to visit you, or if you just know there's always more traffic and it always takes 15 times as long to get any errands done during that time, put that into your schedule. So map your project onto your calendar in a way that respects what's already there, what is coming up, what's non-negotiable, again, so that you have a plan for success. I'm curious, does anybody use like printed? I get printed calendar pages. Anybody else use those? Do you map out writing projects? Let me know. I'm curious how you put writing projects on the calendar. Do you use like your Google Calendar or your phone calendar? What does that look like for you to put things on the calendar? Rosie says, I found a cool planner to track words during Nano, maybe track your most productive days. Ooh, and she's going to post the link in the Write with Megan group. Awesome. Thank you. That would be very cool to see. All right, guys. So speaking of planners, let's move on to step 4, which is to plan each session. Now, you don't have to do that at the beginning of the project. If you're looking at a long-term project, you don't have to sit there and painstakingly say, okay, then on Wednesday, I'm going to do this, and map it out ahead of time. But what you want to make sure you do is, before you sit down to get into your writing time, you want to make sure that you've planned out what you're going to be working on. I particularly love using the writing planner for this. There's actually a copy of it it's one of the downloadable resources in my new book, Recipe for Drafting. And it's not about scene planning. It's about writing planning. So I put at the top the date, I put what my goal is, and my goal could be a certain word count. It could be, I want to finish scene or chapter, X. It could be any particular thing I want to achieve during that time. I use it to track the number of words I wrote during that time, the time I actually worked, and also what kinds of things came up that I have to address. And at the bottom of the planner, there's a space to put in what I'm going to do in my very next writing session. This means that when I sit down to write, I'm already looking at my plan. I'm not trying to come up with a plan and then get into drafting. So for me, that really cuts down on my going back and forth between planning and drafting. Dave says, 1 year I started a week early because of Thanksgiving and family stuff. That left the holiday open for me. Ooh, awesome. So planning for success. Hey, I know I'm going to lose that week, so let me gain a week over here. I like that idea. It's so tempting to have that feeling of, oh, well, I might be working fewer days, and so I'll actually have more time. And I remember this from being a student, thinking, oh, I won't have school, and so I'm going to get so much done. You're like, no, this is this is a busy time. You're not going to get more done. In fact, it's hard to even just get the regular stuff done for a lot of us. It's also just getting to that time of year where the days are getting shorter, it's darker earlier, it's colder. It's hard to muster a lot of energy for a lot of us at this time of year. So, take that into account too. Does this tend to be a time when you're tired and you need more sleep? Respect that. Okie doke. So I was just telling you about the planner that I like to use to plan my writing sessions. And I was saying, use this so that you go into a writing session knowing what you're going to do. And there's a secondary reason that I like to use it. And that is step 5 of this process, which is as you're working on a big project, it's really important to reflect and adjust. So as mentioning in the planner, there's space like, what went wrong? What's not working? And then to put in your next goal, which would be a place to adjust. Maybe it was my hope when I started the week that I was going to write these 5 chapters. And then the first one ended up so different, and I had to adjust my plan. And so now instead I'm going to, only work on 3 chapters, whatever it is. But when you're working on a big project, if you don't take the time to reflect on what's working and what's not working and adjust, what can happen is you get like more and more weight put on you, right? If you start in and you're like, I'm going to get this done and this done, and those things don't happen, then you're scrambling, right? So if you don't adjust, if you don't change your timeline or change your goal, or maybe add in some more working days, you'll never catch up. And not only does that not is that not in line with your big goal, which is to finish this project, it's also really discouraging. And like anything else in life, writing and your success at writing is heavily influenced by your mindset. So if you find yourself going down this kind of dark spiral of, oh, this is just getting more stressful and it's worse, that probably means it's time to reflect and to adjust what you're doing. Now, here's the cool thing. Sometimes just reflecting will be enough to boost your mood, because you might not be giving yourself credit for what you've actually accomplished. So make sure to track in some way, what did you do for the day? Or if you're not writing every day, what did you do to, work toward your goal this week? Keep track of those accomplishments, celebrate those wins, and adjust for the things that are not working. Be scientific about it. You don't have to go, I'm a failure because my plan didn't work. No, that doesn't help you. But, oh, wow. So if you're doing Nano, for example, they break down your 50,000 words into 30 days. And what is it? It's like slightly less than 2,000 words per day, like 1,667 words per day or something like that. So you might have that goal of, I'm going to double it. And I just put myself in a corner because I'm not doing that math. But let's say like I'm going to do like 3,500 words a day. So I can get ahead of the game. And then you look at your stats and you're not making that happen. Instead of going, well, I'll just try harder. Be realistic, say, okay, that goal's not working. Let me scale back. Or, maybe there's a different way I can break up those numbers. Maybe I can take a Saturday and get a lot of writing done and get a lot of words done to make up for that. But don't keep going. Don't try to keep forcing it if your plan is not working. Stop, reflect, and adjust. So that's a super important step. So that was step 5. And both steps 4 and 5, I love using that scene planner. No, sorry, not the scene planner, the writing planner for. And again, that is one of the free downloads for the Recipe for Drafting book. Okay, final step of planning your big writing project, whether it's Nano or something else. Have fun. Make this enjoyable. I have a whole chapter in Recipe for Drafting that's about get in the mood for drafting. And it's what can you do to approach this task in a light way, to make it something that feels fun or at least feels doable, so that you are drawn to it, so that you actually want to do this task. The more you can make your big project something that feels good, that you want to do, the easier it will be to sit down and do it. You'll spend less time fighting yourself or coming up with excuses or procrastinating. You'll just find your butt in chair at the right times, getting the work done. Let's see. Okay, Rosie's plan is to write while the turkey is cooking. Hey JA, hey Lloyd. Rosie, yes, Recipe for Drafting is available for pre-order, but it's released tomorrow. So if you order it today, it will be delivered to you tomorrow. Unless you get the paperback, in which case it's a day or two. But yeah, it is ready. You can find it at meganbarnhart.com/recipe for drafting, all one word, no dashes or hyphens. So that's one way to get some strategies for getting in the mood for drafting. But I also have a free download on my website that's called 7 Strategies to Beat Writer's Block and Start Writing Right Now. And that one also has a lot of ideas for approaching a project with some fun, especially if you've been a little stuck on it. But you can use it preemptively. You can use it before the writer's block starts to get yourself psyched up, to get yourself in a positive frame of mind, and to make your big project, Nano or whatever else it is, something you're really looking forward to and you're amped up for. All right. So those were my 6 steps for a successful Nano / successful big writing project. I'd love to hear in the comments, what are you doing to prep for Nano, if it's Nano you're prepping for, or for whatever big writing project is coming up for you. Please let me know in the comments, what are you doing? And I'm going to move into part 2 of this video, which is what's my personal plan for Nano. So as I mentioned, this is my very first year doing NaNoWriMo. I'm a nonfiction writer, but there's this novel that is in me that I've been thinking about for more than a year, actually, that wants to come out. So I'm going to let it out. I'm going to join in the fun and work on it. And here's my plan. Here's what I'm going to do. The first thing is I'm grabbing, this is the downloadable printout for Recipe for Outlining. It's like over 40 pages of all the like worksheets and like how to build your conflict and things like that. I'm going to go through this process. The reason I put this process into a book is because it's the process that I use when I coach other authors. So I know it works. I've watched them use it with great success. And so I'm going to use that exact sequence and do my outlining and really get my plan going ahead of time, so I know exactly where I'm going. The first part of building my outline in the Recipe for Outlining sequence is creating a mission statement for my book. And what I'm going to do additionally, because this is new for me and a little bit intimidating, honestly, I'm intimidated by the idea of writing 50,000 words in a month. So what I'm going to do to give myself like some further motivation is, once I have my mission statement, which I know will motivate me, because it's going to be like, oh, why am I writing this book, and what's the message, and who is it for, and how do I want readers to feel, like all that deep, juicy, delicious kind of motivation for me. I'm going to take my mission statement and turn it into a quick elevator pitch for my book. The reason I'm going to do that is because I know one of the things that really pushes me on to work on writing projects and to finish and to move past procrastination is accountability from other people. So if I have a little elevator for my pitch, that means I can interact with people in the Write with Megan group, in other writing groups I'm in, and in the Nano forums, and be able to talk about my book in a way that makes it like feel real. So what do you think? Would you write an elevator pitch for your book? Does that appeal to you? Give me an emoji. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Are you down for writing an elevator pitch for your book? Because that's such a simple way to make it more real and to tell other people what you're doing. Ooh, awesome. Lloyd says having a plotting session with a friend in 15 minutes. Ooh, okay. That sounds like a great way to get prepped. And Rosie says panicking mostly. That's your way of preparing. Yeah, I feel you, sister. Thanks, Dave. You can do it. Ooh, Dave says, if I do it this year, it will be several short stories for a couple of different books I'm working on and some comic strips for another project. I love that, right? My step one of being successful is set a personal goal for you, right? So Dave's looking at like, well, what are 50,000 words that I need for what I'm doing right now? And it's not a single novel. It's, you know, these other things that already have homes, right? You already have planned out where you would use them. I love that. That's making this work for you and setting a goal. So I'm excited to get my mission statement, do my outline, and then get my elevator pitch going. And then the second thing I'm going to do for my successful nano plan is use the sequence and the rough draft rules that are in Recipe for Drafting. So you guys, the whole point of these recipes I make is that it's like a fast, streamlined way to do your writing and to avoid the writing gremlins and the pitfalls and, you know, these things like editing your book to death or losing steam or just not knowing what to write next. So I'm super excited to be able to use the material for Recipe for Drafting. And again, that's where you'll find that writing planner I was talking about as an editable Google Doc. So, or you can print it out, but for those of you who like to plan on the computer, all the drafting resources are there. So that's my plan. That's my plan that I'm planning to do. I haven't yet done it. So I definitely will need some time to set aside. The first thing that's got to happen is some time in my calendar next week for these pre-writing activities so that I can stick to this plan for success where I'm actually putting the time on my calendar and making it realistic. Rosie says, I'm spending the rest of October deep cleaning, meal prepping, and pre-planning errands and bills that need to be done the first week of November so that I'm not running around like crazy and coming up for air mid-month wondering what happened. Oh wow, and you're sending the mom you care for to your sisters for the long weekend. I love it. What a great way to make a plan for success that is writing related, because you can't, you know, writing doesn't happen in a vacuum, and you can't do your writing and be successful at it if there are other things like that are demanding your time. So I love it. That sounds like a great plan for success. Awesome. If you're watching the replay, share your plan for success, whether it's for NaNoWriMo or another big writing project. And if you want to grab your own copies of Recipe for Outlining and Recipe for Drafting, you can find them at meganbarnhart.com/books. And again, you get like all these printable downloads as well come with the books, so you can actually print them out and get started planning and make your project happen. Thanks so much for joining me. If you found this video helpful, please do tag somebody you think would like it or share it with a friend. And I'm looking forward to checking in with you all over the month of November, and I'll let you know how my plan is going, these 6 steps for success, and then using Recipe for Outlining and Recipe for Drafting. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I will catch you later. Happy writing.